you're caught in the SF vortex.
There is no time.
Then make time, buddy. Otherwise, you'll miss what's happening in sci-fi this week. Like on Deep Space Nine, Quark's broke, and the deck is stacked against him.
It can't be as bad as all that.
Trust me, it can. Polyester's back, and Mike Myers is dressed to thrill.
Actually, my name is Austin Powers. Danger's my middle name.
Well then, Mike, you might be interested in today's War Room, where our panelists clash over Crash. Fasten your seatbelts. This is the show you don't want to miss.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to SF Vortex. I'm Roger Lodge, and prepare to invade the worlds of sci-fi and horror as we spend the next half hour rocketing through all of the latest. We'll preview new episodes of some of your favorite SF dramas, including The Pretender. And on the motion picture front, we'll check out Mike Myers' new film, Austin Powers, with a sci-fi twist. And then we'll crash into the War Room and debate David Cronenberg's latest horrific offering. It's NC-17, folks, but the big question is, does it go too far? Welcome back to SF Vortex, everybody. We are in the War Room for what should be a pretty lively discussion about horror flicks and the boundaries that they sometimes cross. And I'm joined today by Anthony C. Ferrante, a freelance writer and critic for a number of genre magazines, and War Room regular Robert Meyer Burnett is back, Sci-Fi Universe magazine's critic at large and a film editor whose latest flick, The New Gods, will be featured at the first annual Hermosa Beach Film Festival at the end of the month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. And Nancy Mullins is here, a former television producer who is currently working as an independent filmmaker. All right. First of all, thanks for being here. Let me just touch on something just for a moment here. The Heaven's Gate suicides, a terrible tragedy down there in San Diego. The media, especially the internet, throwing in that whole sci-fi angle here. Anthony Ferrante, is sci-fi getting a bad rap here?
Sci-fi's getting a bad rap, much like horror movies get a bad rap in the sense that they're blaming science fiction for destroying people's minds or whatever, and then they turn into these cult members. Horror movies don't provoke people to go out and turn into serial killers. They're screwed up to begin with.
Is it a case of sci-fi fans going way overboard?
Yeah, of course it is. It's just the same thing as if anybody takes the Godfather seriously and runs out and decides to start a mob or something.
Or soccer hoodlums that beat each other up at soccer games in Britain. It's the
just
same
an extreme.
thing. It's a fanaticism.
It's an extreme. There have been people running around going to all those Star Trek conventions for years with those pajama outfits on, and they're not going to kill themselves.
Right.
There's a lot more of them out there than there are people like this, and very possibly these people would have used anything to hang their neuroses on. It just turned out to be sci-fi.
Science fiction is about imagination. I mean, ultimately that's what it's about. It champions imagination. And all this does is it takes away from that and says that, oh, you're a geek or there's something wrong with you for liking this stuff. And that,
Do you think they used it? Do you think those people actually used it sort of as a plausibility for them?
I think it was an excuse for them. I think in some respects it's like they fabricated this whole thing and they were so caught up in their own world that this was the only thing that they could justify what they were doing. I mean, they were cutting their members off and stuff. I mean, that's kind of an extreme.
Well, the net's getting a bad rap too.
Robert, what do you think?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, after almost 30 years of taking this subject matter and the genre very seriously, now I have my grandmother calling me up again and saying, well, that sci-fi stuff.
You're not packing.
It's wacky.
Okay.
All of a sudden I'm suspect.
Does your grandmother watch SF Vortex? That's the big question.
She watches tapes of SF Vortex.
There you go.
All right.
She really thinks you're cute, by the way.
She does. She's single? We'll talk about that later. Okay, let's get to Crash. Okay, David Cronenberg's latest film. Okay, my first question, I got to ask you, I didn't think the movie was that good. Anthony, good movie or bad movie?
I think it's a little bit of both. I've seen the movie twice. First time I saw it, didn't know what to think. A lot of times.
I had no idea what to think.
Well, Cronenberg does that to you when you see these movies. Sometimes there's a lot of things going on. The second time I saw it, I understood it a lot more. Not necessarily thinking it's a great film, but I think it's a very good film because it explores things that you don't get to see on film anymore. And Cronenberg's one of the few filmmakers pioneering things that you don't see. I mean, NC-17, this is like the third studio-released NC-17 movie. And, it's interesting. It's an intriguing movie.
Nancy?
I liked it.
Come on.
It was a hybrid of Last Tango and Blade Runner.
What'd you like about it? Be a little more specific. What did you like about it? What really worked for you?
I liked the eroticism.
Yeah.
I liked the cars and the sex, and the whole idea of the futuristic aspects of it are interesting.
Robert Altman, I almost called you, for God's sake.
I wish.
Robert Meyer Burnett, what do you think?
I think it's a great film. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of Cronenberg's best movies.
Stop it.
Absolutely,
You really think that?
Absolutely, I think it's one of his best films.
No, I disagree.
I think the film.
It doesn't work on a lot of levels, and actually, really, when it goes from being, they basically throw in the technological aspect of it to give the story someplace to go. And
I disagree. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Look at all you have people today body piercing, doing all kinds of weird things to incorporate into their physical pleasure.
Who are you hanging out with?
And the thing is, that's what this car crash metaphor was all about. I mean, it doesn't matter what your fetish or your kink is.
The reshaping of the human body by modern technology. They dump that scene. It like falls like a big rock into the middle of the movie.
That's a Cronenberg theme from way back, from his very early
I know, but
movies.
that's what makes it futuristic.
But see, it just flies out of there. You're thinking this is going to be the movie. This is Cronenberg. This is what he's trying to do with the movie.
But
and it comes out of nowhere.
Anthony, I was watching a porno movie, wasn't I? It was a porno.
It was not a
Sometimes-
porno movie.
sometimes you are.
Showgirls is porno. This is not a series of like, oh, hi, how's it going? Let's have sex. This is like.
Yeah, but the acting in Showgirls
and
was terrific.
every character.
You call this a
different
sci-fi
film.
movie.
No.
Where's
It
the
is a sci-fi.
sci-fi?
No,
Where?
no.
What's
Okay,
sci-fi?
wait.
It's not
This is
sci-fi.
It's
you know what?
subtextual
The science
sci-fi.
fiction. No. The science fiction writer Brian Aldiss said that science fiction is a questioning of our confused state of knowledge in our technological age.
Okay.
All right. That is what this film is really about. It's about, as we progress technologically, how are we going to incorporate technology and new ways of thinking into what it means to the human
And he's
experience?
been doing that
and
ever
into
since
our,
Videodrome.
Exactly. Even earlier, even Stereo
he was the
Crimes
first-
of the Future. His
doing
first
this kind of
films
stuff
are-
Well, yeah,
just
but
all
this
his
is
films
already
are
a
all about
book. This was
incorporating.
already a concept that was discussed in a book.
Which is
It's funny because I
1971
think
too.
that
It's
from
been around
a
for
male
ages.
and female perspective, it becomes two completely different things.
Did you get sci-fi out of this movie, Nancy?
No, absolutely not.
But science
I
fiction
did
is
not
not
get
about Martians
sci-fi.
or
I liked the
spaceships,
film,
it's
but the
about intriguing
film was
ideas.
about it was an erotic film about
To say the least.
technology. Basically, we call it benevolent psychopathology is the term that's used in the film. And that's basically just an excuse to be talking about some very, very disturbing issues that have to do with some very, very rough people, some very narcissistic people, some people who are already promiscuous, and I think it just
everyday
pushes
people,
it. It pushes it.
I mean, the film was discussing. It could have
Everyday-
been anybody. It could have been anybody in any
Cars
small town.
and sex and the American dream of freedom. I think that really encompasses what it is.
Anthony,
Cronenberg did very similar types of things in The Naked Lunch, and that had nothing to do with science
But see,
fiction.
the thing is, if you go into this movie, Cronenberg says you have to come into this movie having seen my other movies. You have to come in here ready to
That would
think.
help.
Because the thing is, it's thematic. It fits with his other
That would
movies.
help.
If you go in cold, you're going to hate it. You're going to just say,
Because
I
otherwise-
hate this film.
Not necessarily.
It probably-
Yes, you do.
I don't think
People that have not seen
that
direct
makes
My
it
producers
see-
had a hate
hate
if I don't go
that-
to a break. Hold on one second. Hold that thought. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks. There's a lot more colliding going on here in the War Room, all when SF Vortex continues. All right, welcome back to SF Vortex. We are still in the War Room with Nancy Mullins, Robert Burnett, and Anthony C. Ferrante. Let's go to a viewer letter, shall we, gang?
Go.
Okay.
Go.
One of our viewers, Scott Henry, writes, I don't find films based on Clive Barker's work, for example, to be scary because there's nothing I can relate to. Interesting letter. Nancy, how does this tie into Cronenberg's library? What do you think?
Well, for one thing, everyone in America can relate to cars and sex and technology. It's an age-old theme.
Okay.
And that's also something for people that is very, very terrifying because they're afraid of sex, afraid of sexuality because of the old puritanical thing that's been going in this country for a long time. And on the other hand, they're terrified of technology. So this is a double threat because it keeps people in their seats and makes them watch both.
Anthony Ferrante, people are really scared of their own sexuality? Everybody scared?
Well, you know,
Terrified.
I mean, you could be scared of a lot of different things, but I mean, I think being scared of a Cronenberg film is more on a subconscious level because Cronenberg deals with things that, you know, maybe you don't want to like confront. I mean, Videodrome, he's talking about, you know, this is way before Video Revolution, that, you know, you're becoming interactive with your TV and stuff, concepts that are now becoming reality, virtual reality and all this kind of stuff. Sexuality, of course they're afraid of sexuality, or this movie wouldn't have been so controversial. Well, people don't know how to handle sex in films. You know, here's an big example.
Cronenberg has never been apologetic about his sexuality. He's always dealt with strong sexual
what's your
themes,
example?
and that's why people are scared.
Here's my example. Lord of Illusions. I was talking with Clive Barker about this. When the movie test screened, there was a sex scene, and it was actually one of the best sex scenes I've ever seen because there wasn't a lot of sex, but it was very tender and very nice. Test audiences booed it. They laughed and giggled, and they cut it out of the film because audiences couldn't handle the sex and the horror. And what Cronenberg does is he says, here, I'm putting this in there, and I'm putting this other stuff.
But horror is a genre that's all about sex. It's all about fear.
It's about penetration, knives going into people and stuff.
Yeah, but how do you account for the eroticism in this film,
I mean,
too? How do you account for the eroticism in this film, too? Because it's not just sex and horror, and that also goes back to Frankenstein and, you know, Clive Barker and all the way through with it, horror equals sex and all that kind of thing. But this is also a very, very strongly erotic film. And as a woman sitting in the audience, that was not lost on me.
But do you really find the movie erotic simply because it has sexual content? Did you find it to be erotic? I mean, is it something you conjure up later on after you left?
It pushes the envelope because it goes one step further. And the whole concept of talking about what is it in the movie, the manipulation of the human body by modern technology gets into the whole area of self-mutilation. They go into homoeroticism. I mean, they're going into a whole lot of areas that, first of all...
And basically Cronenberg's saying, bring it all on. It's all good. All the varying forms of sexuality. Back to his early works when he coined the phrase omnisexuality.
And it really gives people something
he loves it all.
to hate. But really gives them something to hate.
He said that he
loves it. How about now, okay, Cronenberg in this movie, people who get off on car accidents, James Spader basically having sex with Rosanna Arquette's leg in the backseat of a car, let's face it. Is he going too far here? Has he taken it too far, Anthony?
Okay, here's the thing. He's not taking too far because, as he said before, to go far, he would show a close-up of the wound that he penetrated. That scene is done in a very sexual way. You don't see anything gratuitous, and that shows restraint. I mean, if he wants to offend people, this thing could have been like,
absolutely
wall-to-wall.
Nancy, too far? What do you think?
No.
Oh, you had to think about it, though, for a minute, didn't you?
No, not too far. Not too far. I question the level of filmmaking as opposed to the idea that it's a great concept and certainly came from the book, and it's a great concept that Cronenberg has not always done a very effective job with, in terms of occasionally they have to go to a sex scene just to keep the storyline going, and that doesn't really work.
See, I don't think that's true.
I don't think the story is the sex
every
scenes
sex
in
scene
this film.
tells something.
Yeah, aside from establishing the relationship that Deborah Unger and James Spader's characters have in the film, it also, I mean, each sex scene progressively takes James Spader deeper and deeper into believing Vaughn's psychopathology BS line that he's delivering.
Well, that's the only character that James Spader
But that's the whole thing.
plays.
Cronenberg's movies are all about
every man who gets pulled into some kind of weird
But that's
place,
what Cronenberg's movies are about. They're about sort of off-kilter individuals like Max Wren in Videodrome, or Oliver Reed's Dr. Hal Raglan in The Brood, bringing Samantha Eggar into this bizarre cult.
That makes Vaughn the protagonist of this film.
I got to get out of here. Can you believe it? We're out of time already? That's it? I got to go to a break. Thank you very much for coming. Robert Meyer Burnett, Nancy Mullins, Anthony C. Ferrante. I want to thank you all for being here. Don't go anywhere, folks. There's plenty more in the Vortex in just a moment.